Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Sisters in Loss TV. I'm Erica McAfee, founder and CEO of Sisters in Loss, which is a podcast and a community for Black women and women of color to replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. And one thing that I realized, obviously I've had this podcast for almost 4 years now, is that I've never had the opportunity to share my story in video form here. So if you want to learn more about my story, my journey to motherhood, stay tuned. All right, so I got pregnant shortly after getting married back in January of 2012. We found out we were pregnant in March of 2012, and I went throughout that journey anxious because we were planning a wedding. So the wedding was in May, and I, had to break the news to my mom. I told my sister first, I told all my friends as we were navigating wedding planning, bachelorette party planning, bridal shower planning, all of that above. I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, and I went throughout the pregnancy hopeful, not thinking that the baby would pass away, but just I was working as a supervisor, and I was navigating the journey of working 12 to 14-hour shifts, managing a group of 50 employees and a crew, and as the plant started to grow where I was working at. So it was a lot of stress being in a new role for, a few months, a new marriage, and then now as a new mother, learning, new mother, new wife, trying to navigate the journey all, really alone. So, many nights I had to stay up all night to the next day just because my shifts were rotating, day and night shifts throughout the month. And then I had 1 week off a month where I literally slept every single day. So I navigated that journey. I made it all the way to about 38 weeks in that pregnancy. My blood pressure started to spike, and then our doctors made us take home a test where I actually had to test my urine out for 24 hours to see if I was showing signs of preeclampsia. Once I did that test, I took it back to the doctors the next day, along with another non-stress test, as we did a lot of non-stress tests towards the end of the pregnancy. And I ended up having to go through the process of being induced. So around 39 weeks pregnant, I went back to the doctor's appointment, and they were like, yes, we can see that you are starting to show signs of preeclampsia, and the only way to cure preeclampsia at this point is for you to have the baby. So I went in, I got prepped the night before for surgery. At this point, we have already had our baby showers, multiple baby showers. I had a crib set up, I had a car seat, I had my bags packed. We were ready to meet our baby. So we went to the hospital. We got a Foley bulb inserted the night before to help soften and ripen the cervix so that it can begin to dilate. And the next day, we started the process of Pitocin to induce labor. I was in labor for over 12 hours. And I started pushing once I got to 10 centimeters. At that point, I was extremely tired in the afternoon, and pushed for a very long time, almost up to 3 hours of different types of pushing. I did receive an epidural in that pregnancy, and went throughout the process of just being fatigued towards the end, because during labor, they typically, especially when you birth in a hospital, they typically don't allow you to have any food, but just things that are clear liquids and things like that. So I was just drained because I was just tired from the night before all the way to the next day. And as a doula now, looking back on it, my mom and my grandmother were in the room, and they both were my doulas. My mom was massaging my back. She had brought a massager there, and she was really trying to help me navigate what that journey looked like as my support person, and telling me what to do and push and what muscles to use. So shift change happened at the hospital around 6:30 p.m. and we received new nurses as well as a new doctor that was on call. The doctor came in and was just like, yes, go ahead and try to push for another 30, 45 minutes to an hour. And then if you can't do that, we will go ahead and prep you for a C-section. Because at that point, I had been dilated, my waters had broken, and it was time to deliver this baby. So I pushed again, just couldn't get out, very swollen because of all the additional pushing I had did before. And I was just tired. Like I said, my body was tired. My mind was tired. I just wanted the baby to be here so that I can hold him and get to know him and just love on him. So the doctor came in, she saw me push. She was just like, yeah, the baby's not coming down through your pelvis and we need to go ahead and move forward with a C-section. So they prepped me for a C-section. They gave me a catheter. They increased my epidural strength so I wouldn't feel anything as they rolled me into the OR and prepped me for a C-section. So at that time, my family had left out the room. They went and waited in the waiting room, and they were waiting for the doctors to, come back in so they could meet the baby. So we were rolled back into the operating room. If you watch Grey's Anatomy or any other type of medical show, you know how bright the lights are in that room. I remember that was the room at this hospital was a teaching hospital, so it was a lot of individuals surrounded, from a pediatrician to a lot of medical students who were just there to observe this standard procedure, C-section, cesarean section, for the delivery of this baby. So they, put a cover up over me, and the doctor, I remember, beginning to cut me. Obviously, I didn't feel it, but I could feel the pressure of them actually moving me and jerking me and actually trying to get the baby out of me. So I could actually feel the baby come out of me. Obviously, not any pain, but feel him get released out of me. And he was moving, but he didn't cry. Immediately, I knew something was wrong. Because at that point in time, I had been watching nonstop of TLC's A Baby Story. You remember that back in the day? And I knew every baby that came out cried. It was a significant portion of that show in particular. They made a note to make sure that they showed babies crying when they were born. And my son didn't cry. And I heard the pediatrician behind me say, oh, explicitive. He was cursing because he was like, something's gone wrong. And immediately they rushed my baby over to the bassinet and they started to work on him. And, I was just like, something is not right. Something is wrong. And I was right. My instincts were right. Something was wrong. They worked on my son for 41 minutes. They tried everything under the sun to intubate him, to really get his lungs to develop. But ultimately, he did not breathe a breath outside of the womb. His lungs were just not developed enough. And due to that, obviously his heart couldn't beat because his lungs wouldn't work. And he passed away. They did everything they could to try to save his life. And he died shortly after being born. I remember being rolled back into the recovery room from the surgery, and the nurse in the room was like, are you excited to meet your baby? And I was like, yeah. And then she received a phone call that my baby had passed away. And you could see the night and day disposition of the nurse, where she was excited before and now you could see her pain. And then, she didn't even want to look me in my eye because she knew that I would see the pain in her eye of them having to come tell me that my baby passed away. So the doctors came in, they told me that my son had died, and they did everything they could. And from that moment on, I don't remember exactly what happened. It was very much so an out-of-body experience where I know I screamed, I know I cried, I know I remember my grandparents and my parents being kind of in the hallway of the recovery room. And I was just devastated. I just could not explain going through an entire pregnancy, almost 40 weeks pregnant, to now being told that my baby passed away after going through so much and, getting induced, going through labor and delivery, pushing for hours, and then not being able to bring this baby home. So at that moment, they rolled the baby back in. They allowed us to have our opportunity with him. And, you know, we were able to take pictures. These are pictures you have never seen before that I'm showing you here, that I've never shown the world, that of him, and pictures that we took while we were actually, you know, weighing him and showing pictures of him, and just having those moments with him before we knew we would have to give him away for good. And we had to be faced with the decision of having a funeral or cremating him, or, you know, all of these other things that we could have done to make sure that we honored our baby, you know, this 6 pound 4 ounce, you know, blessing that we were given, but we weren't able to take home. So we had to make all those preparations, you know, within, you know, being joyful one moment, but then being so sorrowful and grieving in the next moment of this life that we could have had. So we navigated that journey. We went back to the regular room. They rolled the baby back in with me. We were able to have a photo shoot with him with the help of Now Lay Me Down to Sleep. And then we were able to navigate the next part of that journey, which looked like, what does life look like now postpartum, after having a major abdominal surgery with the C-section and having 3 months off of work? How was I going to navigate this journey? And this all happened in the Thanksgiving, December, you know, Thanksgiving to Christmas and the holiday season. So it's typically my favorite time of year prior to my loss. And then after loss, it has become my most difficult part of the year, because every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm reminded of this baby that I should have had to celebrate those first initial moments, the first holidays with, as, you know, being married, but also just in general. So it was very hard to navigate the journey. Difficult's not the word. I think it was trying to find your footing in a new normal that you did not know what it would look like as it existed. And it was, you know, stepping on pins and needles as you navigated that journey. And it was, you know, having family members check in on you and you're in the room crying because you just don't know why it happened to you. It's questioning yourself. It's questioning your body. Why did your body fail you? You know, why would God put you through this? Especially for those of us who are believers, who are Christians, who believe that, you know, if we do certain things in the right manner according to the word of God, that we are going to be blessed here on earth. And it's reevaluating and unlearning all of the things that you have navigated through over your life and trying to make sense of something that just cannot be made sense of with having this loss. So those next 3 months after the loss, you know, we went back home, we prepared for a funeral. About a week later, a lot of our family and friends came into town and they helped us with that journey on what that looked like, on just being supportive and being there. I think that's the biggest part of it, where people say, you know, I don't know how to support people. And sometimes, every time I look back on my losses, I always remember just everyone being there. They may not have known what to say or exactly what to do, but I always remember their presence. And I like to tell people just to take time, to go slow, really to be present with those people who are mourning, who are grieving, because you just never know. People will always remember what you did. You know, there's a big quote by Maya Angelou that people will forget what you say, or forget how you said it, but they always remember kind of what you did and the love that you shown to them. And I truly believe that that all of my family and friends who rallied around us and supported us and really loved on us during that time frame really helped us navigate grief gently. And we were able to really dig deeper into really what we wanted. You know, obviously we wanted a life with this child that was unexpected, but really truly how was God going to use us on this journey, especially as we were navigating grief, as grief and healing is a lifelong journey. So that is the first part of my story through loss with my stillborn son, Brandon Jr. And stay tuned to part 2, where I'll talk about the next steps on my journey with my loss with my daughter, Brielle. All right, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned.